Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Yokai Delinquents podcast. That's what we're officially calling it? Still attentive? Is that I think that's what we settled on. That
Uh,
sounds
I,
good,
I
right?
I think that's what we're claiming,
Yeah,
and for now we're sticking with it.
yeah. It's I dig it. I am Jerry Robo Tengu Smith.
And I'm Sean Bearded Kappa Litton.
So, before we really kind of get kicked off with what we're going to be discussing, I actually kind of wanted to bring up the our our names here.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, and like kind of the name and sort of focus of what our name for the podcast is and everything.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Um, so yeah, I kind of always had this like fascination with Tengu. I think they're real neat. It was kind of funny. I don't really remember whenever I first discovered Tengu or anything, but I always had this thing whenever I was growing up, and I inherited this from my grandfather. Big ears and big nose, so I kind of
Oh,
got made fun of quite a bit about my
oh,
nose. Yeah,
oh.
yeah. No, but I mean, I don't know. I just kind of like leaned into it. I was like, hell yeah, yeah. I've got this humongous like beak on my face, and eventually, I kind of like found this thing, this awesome Japanese creature per se called a tengu, and like I've just been kind of fascinated with them ever since. And yeah, I mean, what can you say about Robo Tengu? I mean, it just sounds so cool, and like I've always been fascinated with robots and science fiction and stuff like that. So, I mean, a Robo Tengu? Are you freaking kidding me? That sounds amazing. I actually like originally was thinking Cyber Tengu, and I brought it up to Steph, and she's like, "Yeah." The first thing I think about whenever I hear the word cyber is, cyber sex, and I was like, "Oh God, yeah, let's scratch that."
Right.
going, going with Robo Tengu because, yeah, no, I don't need to be associated with that
Yeah,
'90s
I mean
trope that.
you already got enough of a big phallic symbol on your face.
All
That's
right,
right.
with the long
Uh,
nose.
Bro, I can't lie. Like, I've known you for years, and you've had the original tag that you had was actually Bastard Tengu.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I know, so I've always known you love Tengu. I never
hmm
associated the nose thing because
yeah,
you do
yeah.
have a beautiful nose on your face. Yes, that's true. But like, yeah, it never even occurred to me. Well, I have a hard shell on my back, right? So
Yeah.
no, Kappa. For those who don't know, Kappa is a Japanese yokai as well, a demon, a river spirit, known for like mischief and cucumbers and the Shinken no Dama, which we could get into. It's creepy, but it's not a
Hmm.
fact. Not basically they rip out a mythological, I hope, a sphere that's like kind of like your soul. They tend to pull it out the anus, and
Yeah.
which is something I learned much later after I've already well fell in love with these with kappa. And honestly, like it was almost a natural thing because once I realized what they were, and I kind of found out that they've been in like a lot. I play a lot of Japanese RPGs,
Hmm.
and I've always noticed there were all these turtles, and I've always had an affinity for turtles dating back to,
Hmm.
of course, Ninja Turtles, and growing up we had a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
turtles.
The third movie, right?
Yes, yeah, well they did call him Kappa, and that's literally the only good part of that horrible threequel
uh,
of that franchise. Uh, but I've always dug turtles. My
hmm.
favorite Pokemon is still Squirtle. No reason other than he was a turtle that ran a gang. So he was kind of a kappa in a sense. Found out later on that there are kappa and tengu in Pokemon in the later iterations and stuff. But
Right, right. I
yeah,
think you actually pointed out to me the Tengu that was in it. So
I
yeah, that
did
was pretty dope.
because I just happened to notice he had I can't think of his name right now, but
Was this like stir fry or?
no,
Um,
I'm googling. He's Shrifty for those out there. You'll
that's
notice
it.
he's got the fans, the 3-leaf fan, the long nose, and what gave for me was his feet are naturally those mountain uh,
The
sandals with the
sandals.
single long thing that was used for mountain climbing somehow. But
Right.
yeah, he's absolutely a Tengu Pokemon, and of course mine Ludicolo and all his evolutions are actually Kappa. But
Mm.
I mean Kappa are in Final Fantasy. which I didn't even realize
Hmm.
until then. They called them imp in the American translation, but I was like,
Oh yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, but they have shells and they have, granted, like in 14, as you know, they have a weird disc as their bowl instead of a bowl or a dome that copper are known for.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. This I found like a turtle demon that are both
Yeah.
that are shown typically like I want to say Tengu. While granted, everything can be made cute in Japan.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Typically, Tengu are held, I think, in a kind of a higher esteem of Yokai.
Mm-hmm.
Like because
Mm-hmm.
they're mountain spirits. They're not really necessarily always called demons. They cause like hurricanes and winds and stuff, sure, but I think they're typically held in higher regard than Kappa. While Kappa, are, because they're naturally mischievous, and but what I like is that they're shown both kind of cute and also deadly,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always enjoyed that. I mean, from two movies that you're responsible for,
Oh man, so good.
from Death Kappa,
Hmm.
with that turned into a giant rubber monster wrestling movie at the end, to Summer Days with Ku.
Oh
The greatest Ghibli movie Ghibli never studios never made,
yeah,
as I called
it's
it.
oh man, so
Those are
good.
those two extremes I like, and that's what I've always dug about Kappa. Now the unifying factor between us,
Hmm. Yeah,
we are the
yeah,
Yokai Delinquents.
oh, yeah,
And man, if you don't know delinquents, especially, and we're specifically referring to delinquents in the Japanese, uh, what's the
like
romanticizing of high
yeah,
school and gang life,
yeah,
the worst high schools. I mean, for those out there big anime fans, you want like one of the best delinquent anime probably that show off delinquents without it being about a delinquent necessarily would be Yu Yu Hakusho.
hmm,
I mean,
hmm.
Urameshi and Kurabara. I mean, Kurabara got the pomp. They wear the school uniforms and they just kick the shit out of each other.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, and like it really like I don't know that it could get much better than like high school delinquents with like all of a sudden supernatural powers. It's just so great.
right. But like they emphasize like now like I'd say the movie we definitely bought it over, which I think we were both, being anime and Japanese cinema fans, we were both kind of we knew about it. But I think when we both started watching movies like Crow Zero was definitely one we watched together, and it was like, man, we both were watching like we fucking love this
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just very pretty Japanese men,
Hmm.
young men, because they're playing high school. They're clearly in their early 20s, with amazing wigs and or hair styled up into pomps, mullets, beautiful comb overs, and they just kick the ever loving shit out of each other.
You can't beat a 2 foot long fucking pompadour.
I know, right?
It's so
And I
great.
mean, where they're just like, you got two. I mean, think about it. Like, violence in school. We all grew up around seeing fights, but like,
Mm.
we never got to see a dude who should be a runway model walking up and like this eye fucking a dude with anger, and then immediately German suplexing into it and starting to fight, and then they go have a ramen bowl together and they join up forces to fight a bigger, badder gang.
Yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean, that's how you do. It's the manly spirit.
yeah, which I mean, we've seen it. If you like the shonen anime, you know all about fighting someone and then becoming best friends afterwards.
Oh
Luffy made
yeah.
a career of this
Yeah,
of the world of
seriously.
One Piece, as well as everyone from Naruto, Bleach. And,
Yeah.
you watch shonen
Dragon
anime,
Ball. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
about beating
Yep.
someone and then being friends with them. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Crusaders.
Uh, heavy,
Jotaro is
heavy,
a straight
heavy.
delinquent. Like,
Hmm.
of course, that's fresh on my mind because I'm rereading. I'm
Yeah.
reading. I've started Crusaders because I've only ever watched it, so I'm actually reading the manga right
Hmm.
now. And they just got
Yeah.
him and Kaku on. The nice
Yeah.
delinquents going on a world tour with their psychic stand monsters.
Hmm.
But yeah,
I
oh,
actually got to explain to somebody earlier about the musical references in that.
that's always
Pretty
fun.
great.
I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
I know for me it was a big appeal for just half the fun of JoJo is just like, okay, especially with the English translation because of copyright.
Hmm.
The
Right.
names are there, but they're close still, and they had to change them because they don't want to pay the musicians the rights when they have a character named Tom Petty, basically in
Hmm.
Japanese, and they call him, oh, he's Tom Petty, like it's one word. But
Yeah, this kid played. We've got a an Echo at work, and this
mhm.
kid played Crazy Diamond earlier, and I was like, "Oh, hey, let me
Oh.
tell you a little story about this song."
Oh man, you got to be the old anime fan. Pull up a chair,
Oh,
little young
yeah,
man. Let me tell you about
yeah.
the let me tell you about the days of high adventure.
Yeah. That's essentially it. So tell me about the bearded part of your
Oh
name. What's that? What's the
well,
deal
I
with
mean, anyone who's seen a picture of me, which is rare outside of cosplay photos,
that?
knows I like to grow a beard. My wife
Yeah.
encouraged me because I used to always like shape it up in different ways, and I mean, when you can grow facial hair as good as I can, you change it up. I mean,
You
not
can't
humble
not
brag,
grow a
humble
beard.
brag. Like I got pretty good facial hair, and
Yeah.
I used to change it up from all kind of different ways. And when me and the wife started dating, I don't think she liked it that much because like
Yeah.
when we met, I think I literally only had a chin goatee that I was braiding.
Right.
Everything else clean shaven around, and she was like,
Uh,
"Can you grow your beard like completely, like full?" Like,
she's like, "Hey, can you stop half-assing this and just grow an actual beard?"
hey, you know what? It could definitely be translated to that possibly, but but she legit likes the full beard,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. No,
yeah,
no.
so
Yeah,
that's been my way. It's actually it
yeah.
shocks people who've only met me in cosplay because I will shave for a cosplay. I know,
Yeah, yeah. And it's so bizarre to see you without it.
hey, and I mean, full respect to anyone who doesn't want to. I mean, it's
Yeah.
cosplay. You're
Yeah.
having fun. If unless you're going to those high end competitions where they're looking for 100% accuracy, nobody cares
Hmm.
if you're wearing your Naruto costume and you got a nice beard on. No one's gonna care.
Right.
For me,
Right.
I if I can get away with it,
Hmm.
no, I won't. If I'm behind a mask, obviously. But yeah, I've
Yeah.
done several cosplays where you kind of have to. It's just the character doesn't look right with a beard, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's understandable. Always cosplay what you love, and if it makes you feel good, then yeah, all for it. Go for it.
But yeah, that was that's the origin of bearded kappa. I've gone through a lot of different like it became because of online tags.
Hmm.
I've been online now for a lot of years, playing online gaming, social media, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it's weird. I've never sat for a while on any like nickname. I think the longest I held
Hmm.
was D Bones, which was short for
Yeah.
Davy Bones, which is also D Bones is also a Final Fantasy reference. But
Hmm.
I don't know. It was always like, okay, that's good enough. Then I hit Bearded Cop, and I'm like, motherfucker, I can market this
Hmm. Hmm. Right.
because I am the bearded coppa, and
Yeah.
the logo that y'all are seeing on the screen right now until we get our official podcast logos put together. That is, yeah. I mean, I drew that really quick, and I instantly fell in love with it. With, of course, big shout out to the Rose Pit Autumn who cleaned it up and made the image for me because I can't do digital art for shit.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
Cool.
the origin of bearded kappa and the origin of our delinquents. We love. Oh, and I do want to mention as we're talking about delinquent movies, High and Low movie
Oh
franchise
yeah.
is all on
Hmm.
Netflix right now. If you want to see what we're
Hmm.
talking about with the romanticization and complete brutal ass whoopings that these gangs, some of which are in high school, although you don't see them in any class. The Oya
Hmm.
High, which is like my favorite of the sword gang.
They're
Uh,
pretty great.
I mean, you gotta love the Japanese rendition of "Jump Around" they get every time they're introduced.
But I mean, you gotta admit, fucking Daruma is the shit.
Ah, Daruma is awesome. I mean, y'all
Yeah.
just picture an entire gang who's based around Japanese festivals. So they got the
Uh,
classic. I don't know what those aren't yukata coats, but like the coats. But underneath it,
hmm.
they're just wearing like Wu Tang and Under Armour like stuff. But they got like the celebratory stuff, and they're just there to they show up in like fucking lowriders with the leader just chilling on the hood as they're driving down the road.
It's so
They're,
great.
I mean, they're all great
So
in their own
great.
way. Just I don't know. Oya High School game was like definitely the one that kind of like I don't know. I like the leader a lot. I'm going blank on his name, but just because he's that motherfucker. Like everyone's known somebody like this in their lifetime. Even if you're the most like you're like me and Jerry, we don't like to fight. We're not out there looking for trouble. But you got
Yeah.
that one friend you're really happy is with you in case you do, because like
Right.
someone's like, "Hey asshole," and they just get a smile on their face. Like, oh shit, I can whoop some, and that's the leader of Oya. So he's like every
Yeah.
time they're having the big game, you spot him in the crowd. He's smiling and jumping up and down, like let's fucking do this.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. We started it. We finished the second movie.
The second one,
So I
okay.
think, yeah, I think there's like what,
There's
six
six
or
total,
eight?
which I
Yeah.
watched number six first because I didn't know this
Oh,
was a
yeah.
franchise. Number six
Yeah.
popped up on Netflix on my recommendation list, and I clicked it to see a little more info other than the initial thing, and it said it was
Hmm.
written by the guy who wrote Crow Zero manga.
Right.
So he actually wrote the screenplay for the last one. So I watched the last one first, and like, don't get me wrong, I've watched the first, second, I believe I've gone through the first three, and I don't even, I can't spoil it for you, Jerry, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
the last one is like, my
Yeah.
God, it was so
Oh,
damn
yeah.
good.
I think you messaged me as soon as you finished, and you were like, "You need to check this out like
Yeah,
immediately."
yeah. Then I think you point out like, yo, there's like six of these. Like,
There's
which
like
one do I
six of these,
start
man.
with? And I had
I
to
gotta, I
find,
gotta. Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
had to
That's what
find
we
the,
did too.
yeah, I had to find the official watch list because usually with a movie series, if it's not clearly numbered, you can kind of be like, okay,
Hmm.
what's the release year? They made three of these motherfuckers in 1 year.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. And I think they had a live action series and an anime,
yeah. I found
if
the
I'm
anime. It
remembering.
looked like some like kind of chibi shorts
Oh,
on
gotcha,
YouTube. That's where
gotcha.
those
Okay.
Nendoroids you sent me. That's literally the art
Oh,
style from these. They're on YouTube. I meant to actually tell you about
gotcha.
that, but I'm telling you now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
No, that's awesome.
right, well, I'll tell you what though, like, yeah, but that's the origin of our name, the origin of the podcast, because these are just
Hmm.
Yokai and Delinquents or something. You and me definitely
Yeah.
branded ourselves or like bonded ourselves, and now we branded ourselves
Hmm.
with the name to kind of bring. We could be like what we could call ourselves the we could have done One Piece, we could have done Monster
Hmm.
Hunter, any of the multiple
Oh
things
yeah,
you and
yeah,
me
yeah.
have really
We
bonded
could have
over.
done the Flying Pig Pirate podcast or
Yeah,
something
but
like
then we
that,
have
you
so
know?
many other people that have to be hosts, and fuck those
They'll
guys.
find out, and then they'll kick our ass whenever they find out that we're using the name without them. Yeah.
uh, totally. Although little spoilers down the road, some of them may be on this show.
Yeah, yeah. That'll be awesome. I'm excited to get them on here and interrogate them about stuff.
Like, come over here and yell words at us. That's all we want. We just want to
Right.
have a good conversation. So, but Jerry,
Yes.
Mister Robo Tengu, I need some good conversation, man. What do you got for me today?
Uh, I figured we could talk about how we originally got into anime.
Ooh,
And since you are a good head, you know, older than me, you
oh,
could.
a
You,
year and four score or whatever. Like many moons. I've seen more winters
many
than you.
the all like so many winters, so many times the sun has passed this green earth. Yeah, tell me how you got started in anime. What
Right.
drove you to anime? What made you watch anime?
Right. Okay. Well, memories are fuzzy for this old man.
Oh yes.
So to set the time frame, I am 40 years old. I was born in 1980. So my first technical exposure to anime, when I didn't know what anime was the early anime that we got in the 80s, like Voltron,
Hmm.
Robotech, Speed Racer. No, and like technically Transformers, although that's kind of a gray zone because it was Japanese toys made for an American market, animated by people who would become big animators in the anime industry in Japan. But like those kind of like I would get into those, but I didn't know what those were. Those were just other Saturday morning cartoons that had great animation occasionally.
Hmm.
Like Thundercats. Like the opening is like fucking amazing, and there's a few moments where there's like some good sequences, but the rest of the animation is real stunted. That was the animators kind of making like, hey, here's my demo reel. We want to move on to real
Hmm.
shit.
Right.
But when I would say when anime really became a thing was Wizard magazine, actually, because I was reading, that was a
Mm.
comic book publication, but they started to cover
Right.
manga,
Oh.
and they mentioned though that there was this animation from Japan that they so aptly named Japanimation.
Ah.
And I was like, so there's okay. So I was like, okay, so there's Japanimation, animation from Japan. Later on, of course, they started adopting it as anime, but we'll get to that. And I think that's like I'm not sure my exact timeline. I know some of the earliest ones I
Mhm.
saw once I knew what it was. I knew this was animation made in Japan, translated into English, and it was some of the earliest ones were TBS ran a midnight showing of the first Vampire Hunter D movie, and it was
Yeah.
completely uncut except for the one little nude scene they had in it.
Right.
So I'm watching it, and my little like this has had to be '93, maybe '94, and that was blew my little mind. Just seeing the storytelling, like okay, because the only movies we had were the Disney movies, the some of the more like even the weird ones like Brave Little Toaster, which will traumatize a small child. But still overall like Secret of Nim would probably be the closest of a kind of a dark uh, animated movie I had growing up. Plus, being a pretty strict household, couldn't see stuff like heavy metal and those kind of like the actual ones that are aimed at older audience. So anime was a big culture shock once I saw it as for what it was. Um, and then I know at some point too, I started hanging out with my buddy Walter, and we would regularly go unsupervised to our Hastings rental store, and they had a VHS section called Japanimation. And because this is all done before the electronic system, really, like their catalog was very basic back then.
Hey,
The,
Sean, what's a VHS?
uh, listen up, youngster. VHS is for those who actually don't know. VHS was the medium for cinema before DVDs, which came before Blu-rays. But
Oh
yeah,
no, I'll yeah, I'll have something like that in mind too.
no, and the beauty of that though was they didn't look. They saw a cartoon box. They didn't ID us.
Hmm.
We were.
Oh
I was
yeah.
like 13, and they didn't check it. And you know what? A 13-year-old kid who knows now that Japanese cartoons, once you look at the back, you're like, okay, well, first we were checking to make sure they weren't subtitled because I don't want to read and watch my shit.
Right.
But then I saw a little. It said warning: blood,
Oh.
blood, violence, nudity, sexual. No, no, I think it's just nudity. And I was like, this has ninjas, blood, and apparently tits. I will take this. What's it called? Kabuto, the golden-eyed beast. That has stuck
Ah.
with me forever. Which you'll appreciate this, Jerry. I don't remember the exact translation of the of Kabuto, the golden-eyed beast, but it like there it is because they cut out the very first part of that title for some reason. Not that
Hmm.
Kabuto is any easier on the English side, but they felt they needed
Hmm.
to get rid of Raven Tengu, Kabuto the Golden
Oh.
Eyed Beast. I knew a Tengu was in the
Wow.
original title, but
Wow.
it's a ninja anime. It was like 45 minutes, but and it was like, to my knowledge, I think there was only like literally one scene where he was rescuing the girl from these demon ninjas, and she was naked. So you had like 30 seconds of booze, but when you're a 13-year-old kid who raised pretty strict, you, even a cartoon boob is like, yes!
Right.
This made my weekend. We are getting more anime.
Yeah. Right.
And we went on to getting stuff like Project A Lupin movies, and like renting Volume 6 of Ranma Half and not knowing anything about it beforehand, which made me
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah. You were like that scene in the Matrix when they first start getting giving Neo fighting styles, and he's like, "Ooh, I think he likes it."
He's been watching it for hours. And yeah, that was the introduction for sure. Another and that's definitely what started in. I'll give a few more, then I'll let you go. Old man, old men can ramble for our memories for days.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right.
other couple other highlights are on the Sci-Fi Channel. I want to say it was Sundays or Saturday mornings. It was definitely weekends because it was when I was in school still. They just showed blocks of anime. They would show the entirety
Hmm.
of Akira, except for the one nude scene, and I think maybe they cut out some of the violence. They showed the
Yeah.
first like 3 or 4 episodes of Record of Lodoss War. For that
Oh.
one, for you D&D aficionados, that's a great old school one. and just different like Dominion Tank Police. That was my introduction to Masamune Shiro. Before I ever saw Ghost in the Shell. And that would show blocks of different. That would do like 3 or 4 different things, and kind of rotate through their catalog, which wasn't too deep, but you would see like Tenchi Muyo movie, and like this that would show. That got me a good variety. And the last story I'm going to tell of my early anime days was an unknown show in my high school. I want to say this was just when I was getting into high school. Sunday mornings on UPN. For those that eventually became the WB for you out there, which is now the CW for you others out there, had a little unknown anime because I watched it and I managed to catch it at the beginning, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is good. This is simple but good." And I had to go tell all my friends at school about it. I was like, "Yo, Sunday, UPN. There's an anime. I may even been still calling it Japanimation at that point because that's all we had."
It, yeah,
Have
it's
you
just like a little known series, though.
like have you heard of Dragon Ball Z?
Right?
They were like what the hell is a Dragon Ball Z? Like I don't know, but this dude came from space and they were beating the shit out of each other, and this green dude shot the motherfucker. That was, yeah. It only showed the Raditz arc, like literally,
Oh yeah,
and the training afterward. Like literally, as soon as Nappa and Vegeta land, it would
yeah.
restart.
Wow,
That
that's such a letdown.
that's all UPN showed. I mean, you got a good, got the training
Yeah.
and all that, and
Oh,
Gohan's training and
yeah.
stuff, and all that. But
Yeah.
that's all UPN showed.
They
So,
were basically edging you with the best parts of the series.
I mean, definitely before all, the greatness of the Vegeta battle and everything. So yeah, we never
Yeah,
got that. We just got everything lit up literally from Raditz showing up to them landing, and then it restarted, and then
yeah,
eventually it went on to Cartoon Network, the Toonami block, which is where most people got into it.
yeah,
And by
yeah.
most people, I mean you young cats, like,
Right?
like,
Jeez, way to tell some of my origin story.
well, why don't you fill me in on it?
Yeah. So I kind of grew up in a great heyday for anime, honestly. Like I never really had to search far and wide for it because I was born in '88. So whenever I was about that, age of 10 or so, there was already quite a bit out there. And I mean, just like you, Saturday mornings, like that's where I was. It's funny because WB had its own like block of stuff, and that's where Pokemon was, and that's
Right.
probably why I never really got so deep into Pokemon because we only had Fox, and Fox had Digimon, which everyone knows is the superior version of Monster. Not really collections. What would you call that?
Uh,
Digital.
Digital
Yeah,
monster battles.
yeah, monster like anime cockfights or something like that. I
And
don't know.
just for the record, there's an unpopular opinion video out there that strongly disagrees with Digimon is better than Pokemon. Check it out on Unpopular Opinions Volume whatever the fuck I posted it on this very YouTube channel.
I'm
Well,
I'm the other side of that
yeah, for sure.
opinion.
Sorry, continue.
No, you're fine. But yeah, no, just getting into stuff on that. Looking at the list here, I was trying to like
Yeah.
see all these shows that I watched, and I mean, Digimon, Monster Rancher, basically anything that had any kind of like weird like companion like sort of pet thing, and like they use it to do battle, like Beyblades, Metalbots,
Dude, I did.
fucking.
I did dig Monster Rancher. I actually watched that quite a bit.
Oh man, and the games for those were so awesome because you could use discs to unlock monsters for it,
Right.
and like this was like the time of like CDs and DVDs and shit, and we like would take every single disc from the entire house and make monsters from
Yeah,
it.
never got into
But
it, but I remember working at Game Exchange right when the
oh yeah,
PS2 era was kind of starting. So we still had
yep.
PS1, and I'm trying to push them because everyone's trading those in, and that was a big selling point for the Monster
Uh,
Rancher games. I would tell people about the disc. I always heard if you put in Rob Zombie's Dragula or whatever album had Dragula on it,
yeah, yeah,
that one would get you a strong ghost monster.
yeah,
Apparently, I do
yeah.
remember using it as a salesman. I never played them myself, but I enjoyed the anime.
Oh yeah.
Question for you though: when you were watching these, did you know what anime was, or was it just another
I,
cartoon?
I honestly didn't because I just kind of like labeled it with a bunch of the other stuff that I watched. And it wasn't. I don't think it wasn't until the time like that One Piece popped up on it, and
Oh,
I was just like, this is kind of weird, like this is kind of far out there. And I don't remember how far Fox got into to One Piece, honestly. And like I kind of just like I don't know, sort of like shrugged it off for the longest time. And was like, oh, this isn't, necessarily going to be a thing. Maybe played a game every now and then, who
right.
knew what that was going to turn into at the time? Because this was like right after the anime started in Japan. We were getting it on Fox,
Oh,
or not too long after.
well, I can do you one
Yeah,
better.
yeah,
Story from our friend Brian, who we mentioned before about got us to Japan.
yeah.
He started his internet thing that he does now with translation and time and all that, with just fan translations. And he was
Yeah.
telling me like him and his group had done or knew people who did the first One Piece fan translations,
Oh yeah.
and they posted out there, and all the message boards was going. This was '98 when the anime started. Like they were getting it straight
Mm.
from the source early. Like this show will never last. It's too silly.
Oh no,
they
I can imagine.
they
It's
were
like
so wrong.
yeah, like I said, I'm amazed. Like I think it was just something so new and so different to Shonen Jump that it just like kept going. Because like honestly, like for real, like in today's world,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we do get a lot of the same stuff. Like because there's always going to be like a supernatural series going. Like it seems like they try to push those quite a bit, and then they just kind of fall flat because we have like a million of them. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and the One Piece that I got was the Four Kids dub.
Oh,
So
the infamously better
yeah,
dubbed. No, no, yeah, I can't. I mean, the fact that you love One Piece as much as you do now, and that was your introduction, is pretty
well,
fucking impressive.
I mean, like I said, I didn't mess with it for the longest time, and then I went to Acon one year and saw some people dressed up, and then I was like, I might check some of this out, and then like it was all downward spiral after that. And then not long after that, because the Fox stuff went for quite a while. We were in
Oh
the
yeah,
early 2000s at this point. Toonami was going on, and they had their whole block of stuff, which you touched on a little bit, and of course, fucking Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon were like the huge like prime things in that really got me into it. And then the year after that, they did fucking Gundam Wing and the Tenchi series,
oh yeah, oh yeah,
and yeah,
oh yeah.
I and like if Gundam Wing, like I know a lot of people, especially like the main Gundam fandom, like to shit on it, but holy shit, it got so many people into giant robots you don't even know.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've
Yeah.
never been able to stick with a Gundam series, but Wings the one I
Mhm.
tried the hardest because
Yeah.
Death Scythe is still the greatest Gundam ever made. Uh,
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like it's definitely a fan favorite.
yeah,
It is that show is almost unwatchable by today's standards though.
oh, for sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
but I would like I just had another old man memory pop in. Forgive me as I'm having my
Oh,
my 40
yeah.
year old like I remember my member berries are coming back in.
You
Uh,
had a smell or something that took you back.
well, you said Sailor Moon,
Yeah.
and I first saw Sailor Moon on the USA Cartoon Express, which was
Oh.
their
Hmm.
block of cartoons where they had Sailor Moon on there before Toonami acquired them,
Yeah.
and I actually saw Sailor Moon there.
Oh.
Which at that point I had because by the time I was watching Dragon Ball Z, I'd already rented all these anime, so I knew what anime was, and I was grabbing
Mm.
anything that was anime. So I
Yeah.
watched Pokemon, even though granted, hey, we're all kids at heart. It doesn't matter. Age doesn't really matter. You're into what you're into, but
Yeah. Yeah.
way too old to be like way older than what like I should be into it. And I didn't get too deep, but I would watch it anyway, just because like this is
Mm.
anime. This is clearly anime. I'm watching it. I watched Sailor Moon. I watched that, and then like you said, the Toonami block when Gundam Wing, Tenchi Muyo, Trigun,
Mm.
Outlaw Star hit. You know, that was huge for me as well. I can imagine those
Hmm.
were big for you. Sorry to jump on your story,
Oh no, no,
but
no. Yeah.
we're hitting
No,
that
it's
mutual time now when we
y-
both were
yeah.
watching.
Yeah. Like in I mean, giant robots. And like we used to go to Hastings all the time, which I'm sure nobody knows what a Hastings is anymore.
Yeah.
It's a lot like a Blockbuster, if you know what a Blockbuster is.
It's a
So a
red
block,
box. It's a huge
yeah, it's a
red
red
box
box,
that you can
but
walk
there's a
into.
store for it. And you got a little plastic card, and they scanned it, and you
Yep.
got the movie for a certain amount of time.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, like renting anime was always like a pretty good, pretty high point. Always, the earliest ones that I can definitely remember are Escaflowne
Ooh.
and Ninja Scroll.
Oh, Ninja
Those
Scroll.
those were yeah,
Ninja
those were the
Scroll.
two big ones.
The first anime I ever owned by
Yeah.
asking for it for Christmas.
Oh my God.
My parents found it in a rental store, or not rental
Yeah.
store, a movie store in the mall on
Hmm.
VHS, and they did not look at the back because it had the warnings. And I assumed they knew about as much as Hastings knew when I was renting anime that was too old for me.
Right.
Yeah, and I remember distinctly, like my brother saw that. I was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh, this is supposed to be a really, really good." And I don't even know how I heard about it. Maybe a New Type magazine or one of my game fan used to cover anime too. And they probably mentioned this
Hmm.
is not for kids. Like, well, I got to watch it. And
Right.
we got to that.
Hmm.
We got to that first sequence. Anyone who watched Ninja Scroll knows they get to the tits pretty
Oh,
early. My brother looked at
oh
me. He was like, "You're
Jesus.
gonna get in trouble," and I never did.
Never got caught to this day.
Granted, by that point I'm 16, so
Yeah.
they may not have cared as much. Like, oh, they're just cartoon boobs. Who
Uh,
cares? Like we all care
yeah.
about cartoon boobs. Okay,
Oh
but
man. Yeah.
Escaflowne, that one's held in such high regard, and I've never watched that one.
It's funny because I was given the series for it. I still haven't watched it, but I've watched the movie so many times. I like the robot designs in it are like so great.
Right,
They're just amazing. Like my top favorite is Big O though.
Big O, yeah.
And yes, that series started around 2001. And it was honestly thinking about it, it might have been the first manga that I ever bought.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
yeah, because like I don't know, I always wanted to just read it all to
Hmm.
finish it because the ending of the anime never really like it didn't give you that same ending.
Right.
But I don't know what happened if they just didn't release every
Well, when you
copy over here or what. But I never got them all.
yeah, and was there was a big gap between the first and second season of that too. So like,
Mm-hmm.
were you getting the manga in between that, or after the second season already ended?
You know what? I honestly can't remember.
Right.
And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. So the whole reason why there was a gap between it, and I mean, like, I don't know. I've just heard this from so many people that I've just accepted as the truth. So it might not be true,
Hmm.
but so Japan was not going to make another season of this show.
Right.
Like, I
Right.
guess it was just not like people didn't really like it in Japan.
Right.
Um, but I guess the American audience loved it so much that they ended up making a second season for it and finishing it off, which
I've
is kind of interesting if you think about it because they did the whole manga and all that stuff.
right.
So
No, I've heard that exact same story. I believe
yeah.
because it did very well because of course it was the anime boom here in America. I would definitely
Hmm.
say like granted we had the early starts in my childhood, but you're right. You hit that golden time. And
Right.
I think Big O had all the right elements for people who are new to anime
Hmm.
and in America specifically. The story, while there was definitely some intricacy to it, it was really a
Hmm.
show about giant robots fighting each other.
Right.
And the art style was very reminiscent of Bruce Timm's Batman the Animated Series, which was huge over here at the time. So
Right.
I think all those
Yeah.
elements just made it really appeal more to American audiences. I could now, and I'm sure you can even like looking back now that we know as much about anime as we do now. We're the cultured gentlemen that we are. um, like I could kind of understand why maybe Japan wasn't as impressed
Hmm.
because like I said, Big O. Again, I love some giant robots as much as anyone else, but I think like my love isn't nearly as deep as like yours and a lot of our friends who are into like Gundam and that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. But
Yeah.
I still watched it.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember really liking was it Eleanor? his maid.
His maid was. He would call me out on this all of a sudden.
But
Uh,
I remember liking her, like their dynamic.
Dorothy. It was
Uh,
Dorothy Wainwright.
Dorothy, there it is. I knew it was like one of those kind
Hmm
of like I don't know, like in my mind proper-ish names. But
hmm
I remember liking her a lot as a character, and like this is the dynamic between the main character, not Bruce Wayne.
Roger.
Roger, there we go.
Roger Smith.
Roger Smith. Oh, now we know why
Yeah.
you like it, Jerry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean honestly, you never see a character with the last name Smith, and it was such a like common name that I don't think it
Right.
interested anyone. So I thought it was kind of cool back in the day that there was a character that had the same last name as me.
Yeah. So what would you say out of like that Toonami block, which is like again like some of the Godfather of anime for at least our generation, within mine a
Mm.
year space time. What were some of your absolute favorite ones out of that?
I mean, yeah, Big O definitely. Dragon Ball Z. Like, oh, I would fucking sprint home to catch Dragon Ball Z
Oh, of
in the
course.
afternoons. Yeah, and like my parents grounded me all the time. They're like, no TV, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna be standing in between like where the TV is and where the window is. So if I see you guys pull up, I'm gonna turn this shit off as fast as possible, run in my room. But
Right.
like, yeah, like I hardly ever missed an episode of that. Of course, Yu Hakusho, Sailor Moon. One that's not really talked about a whole lot is Zoids. It was another
Oh,
really
yeah, yeah.
big mech series, and it's one of those first ones that I got into where they used some CG animation. So all the mechs were CG animated, and it's like just these people having battle tournaments and they're in these giant mechanized animals, and it was just so fucking cool. And they were making models of that over here like years and years before the anime really started. I It was kind of funny because I actually had an old picture of me that I found when we lived in an apartment, and I think I was like not even 10 at the time. um, and I had a Zoid that I think my dad bought me, and I was like I built it up and everything. It was pretty cool to see that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny because I'm like super into like all that now, like building models and everything. Uh, but yeah, there was a lot of course, Gundam was out there. Sailor Moon, which I didn't really stick with like nowadays because they've made like several series for it, was really good. And then another one that I noticed on here that I really liked, and like it was funny because it didn't really connect with me until I researched a lot more with like Common Rider and stuff. But Cyborg 009.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it like the creation of that is by the same person that created Common Rider.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ishinomori. Yeah, it's just great stuff. I love like they have these nine cyborgs, and they wake up and they all have these different abilities and stuff, and they're supposed to be like used to destroy the world, but they all turn against their creators and war against them and stuff like that. And it was always a really cool dynamic that sort of stuck with me.
Oh, yeah. Like I mean, he's responsible for a ton of great like manga and
Yeah.
the anime adaptations, of course.
Mhm.
Little side note on him: know what my first introduction to him was?
What's that?
Nintendo Power ran a manga of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past,
Right,
and
right.
it was
Yeah.
at least illustrated, if not written by. I actually have the trade of it, but not currently
hmm
unpacked up. um, but they added a character in there that
hmm
looked he loves to draw, and it looked just like that dude from 009 with the long nose and the swept hair.
Oh
He
yeah, that was my favorite. He could fly. He was
Right.
so cool.
He literally just put him into Zelda.
Right.
He looked just like him. And I think he was like, I believe he was a thief, and he helped out Link, who was never, the character was never in the game, but it was him, so he had to put his. That's probably was one of his favorite designs, maybe. But
hmm
I was like, well, I was trying to find like, I don't know, I'm not giving up yet. While we're still talking, but like that era, like a lot of mine, of course, like you. I mean, you listed the greats, but
hmm
Outlaw Star was huge for
Oh
me.
yeah,
As much as I love
yeah.
Cowboy Bebop, those also came around the same time in that era, and
hmm
like Outlaw Star, I don't think gets the love it deserves. And
Right.
Tenchi Muyo actually opened up a big like my still love, which I don't know, maybe I don't want to believe I grew out of it, but like the harem comedy
Oh yeah,
of
yeah.
anime, I'm still a sucker for that. I haven't watched nearly as much of it I used to, but like
Hmm.
Tenchi
Like
Muyo, Ranma
Ranma.
half, like yeah,
Yeah.
Ranma was just that, and I'm still a huge Ranma fan. And like everyone's all about that Inuyasha, which I don't hate. Throw all the hate my way. I never got into it. I never much
Yeah.
cared for Inuyasha, but I know that's
Yeah.
Rumiko Takahashi's like most popular one here at least.
Hmm. Yeah, that one wasn't really my thing either, but yeah, I mean people ate it up. They still do. There's that new series that's getting ready to come out for it and
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
too.
it's a sequel actually. Yeah, it'll be I believe like a lot of the characters kids,
Hmm.
but
Which
yeah,
is what every anime fan really wants of their series, right? They want like the story to continue with like the kids of the characters and stuff.
nobody cares about Boruto. Which disappoint me, Naruto fans who still just cling to it as the great. I mean, I got into Naruto for a little while. And that was really back when I discovered the world of illegal downloads.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
once Toonami kind of ran its course, they were just kind of showing reruns, and they started bringing in some new ones that just weren't clicking with me. I kind of like, well, I feel like, I would buy random DVDs just because it looked interesting. I'd spend $30 to $50 on a series and I'd hate it. I was getting kind of
Hmm.
frustrated with anime because nothing was on TV that wasn't just basically reruns or newer garbage I wasn't really digging.
Hmm.
And then the world of BitTorrenting came into my life,
Right.
and which again support the industry. We all know us. We if you've talked to us or listened to us on our old podcasts, support the industry. But
Hmm.
you can't
100%.
you can't deny though that the illegal downloads are what has kept anime going into the market is now, where more is now available. So to me, there's no reason to anymore.
Hmm.
But that was a
Yeah, I
big
mean,
factor in me being able to watch a variety of anime that I would watch. I would illegally download, and I always justified myself with like, yes, I downloaded the entirety of this anime and watched it. Oh, there it is on the shelf on Best Buy. I'm buying the set
hmm.
because I know I liked
Yep.
it.
Yeah, yeah, and like, I mean, I don't know that like as many people would be into as much stuff if it wasn't for that, because going back to One Piece,
Yeah,
like they hadn't aired any of that over here in like a long ass time whenever I got back into it. And I ended up having to, because Crunchyroll wasn't a thing.
no, no, it was
So whenever I got caught up, I had to go online and watch it on there. But I mean, I wouldn't do that today, like in today's market and how everything is. But also, people would watch that stuff on BitTorrent and they'd go out and buy figures and stuff for it. So,
absolutely.
supporting it in a certain way.
Yeah, and like real talk, there is because I didn't see the Four Kids One Piece,
Hmm.
and if I just saw it on the shelf, I
Hmm.
guarantee you I would not have bought it back then.
Right.
I literally, and you know how much I love One Piece now, but there is absolutely no way I would have given it a chance if I wasn't downloading it.
Hmm.
If it wasn't free, and the guy who showed me how to do all that, what sites to go to, hadn't told me to check out One Piece. If it
Hmm.
wasn't for those factors, I never would have given it a try because honestly, yeah, I mean, to people who don't like the art style, at a glance, sure, yeah, it's silly looking, and especially back then, I'm like, well, if it don't look like Cowboy Bebop or Outlaw Star or Trigun, you know, I'm not
Hmm.
gonna look at a pirate anime. What the hell's
Hmm.
ninjas over pirates? Remember when that was a debate?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, like for the longest time, my whole thing, like, because my mom and I, we always would catch Seven Samurai on IFC,
Oh, so
whenever
good,
that would play.
right?
So like, I kind of gotten into my mind like this very formal, very serious sort of like samurai aesthetic, and like that's the only kind of shows that I would look for. And it wasn't like few years down the road that I decided to branch out and look for something a little more comedic, and that's what ended up getting me into One Piece. But
Here it is.
yeah,
Okay. One other little story I want to talk about when you just watch anime because you found out it's anime.
right.
I got suspended from school for a week The one time I was a bad person in school, and I was told my punishment was to this was 93 94, so yeah 13 14, right at my start of like discovering anime for what anime is, and I got suspended, and I believe it was Fox ran a show called The Bots Master.
The Bots Master.
Do you happen to know this one? Because I think it's a very obscure one. uh,
Interesting.
like I'm looking at the pictures, and like some members are coming back, but basically it was a kid with a team of robots, some of which were like sports based. Like my favorite one was a ninja sports guy who had like the umpire mask, multiple arms, and he fought with
Oh,
sports equipment.
gotcha. No, I remember that. And I remember seeing those toys too,
Yeah,
because like some of them, one of them had like a baseball bat or something
yeah,
for a
I think there
weapon,
were
didn't it?
two robots. I'm looking
Yeah.
at the picture now, and there's one that looks like a construction bot, and they all like I'm sure they all had the '90s Ninja Turtle voices and stuff. You know what I mean? But like I watched the shit out of that thing while I was suspended from school. But that's another obscure ass one that no one's no, I don't think anyone remembers it whatsoever. But like, yeah, I mean,
Right.
but it is those early anime that molded us and introduced us into what we mistakenly thought was authentic Japanese culture. Like,
Hmm.
oh, this is
Hmm.
exactly what Japan's like. You go eat your bento and fight a demon at lunch during school.
Yep. Things are so much more exciting over there than they are here.
But yeah, that was definitely like I said, those early anime definitely molded me into the anime fan that I am. Just again, and while I saw a lot of anime before the Toonami block, I still credit that Gundam Wing, Trigun,
Mhm.
Cowboy Bebop era for cementing.
Yep. Yeah.
And by
It.
that point, I'd already seen like Akira on VHS, and I'm like, showing my friends who now know Dragon Ball Z, like, yeah, Dragon Ball Z is great. Have you watched Akira? And they're bored halfway through, and I stop being their friend because they don't because they weren't screaming, fighting every 3 seconds. Like this is cinema. This is art.
This is art, you
Like
motherfucker, you
fine, like
uncultured
fine,
swine.
fine. We'll watch Ninja Scroll again. Shit. But I mean, I literally made a
Um,
friend was saying, "Have you seen Ninja Scroll?" And we watched that together, and they're like, "You have the best taste in movies." I mean, blood, guts, tits, and ass, and ninjas. Well, I mean, what really more did you
mhm.
need back in the '90s?
Yeah.
But
Oh man.
yeah, I mean, that's definitely our anime origin stories. I would say, and
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
anime really is what brought you and me together. It was One Piece for
Yeah.
sure, as well as then just
We,
like, have you watched this? Have you seen this? And you take recommendations from me. I took recommendations from you, and watching them
mm,
together in the House of August, as I called
yeah.
it. And yeah, I mean, anime I'm sure molded a lot of people. For those listening, we would love to hear in the comments below what anime was your early anime when once you knew what anime was. You know,
Right.
what shows shaped you into the anime fan that you are, or if
What
we're guilty of turning you into an anime fan, let us know.
what got you started into anime? What was that first thing that got you into it? What was the hook?
I know for me, I saw nudity on the back of a VHS tape. Hey,
Humble beginnings.
hey, look, no shame in this game, man. I love cartoon violence and tits at the same time. I was a repressed child who couldn't see that kind of things, and then I
For
found
those
freedom.
teenage hormones.
Hey, and sometimes you don't grow out of them because I still like my anime with blood, guts, tits, and ass.
Right. Right. Right.
But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for today's episode.
Yeah.
Great talk
Sounds good.
down memory lane. Uh,
Hmm.
if you guys enjoyed the show, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. That the biggest thing we can do right now is we're trying to find that audience. If you would be so good, once we share the video, tell your friends, hey, there's a
Yeah.
couple of nerds talking about nerdy shit, and maybe we're
Hmm.
we're entertaining enough. You'll want to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, by the time this comes out, you probably have like a few more episodes to listen to. So just listen to our next shit. I'm sure it's going to be great. I hear our best episode so far is probably going to be episode 6.
6.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh, that's some pressure. That's some pressure. Episode 6 better be great now, Jerry. You better bring it.
Yeah, yeah. Bring the heat, bring the thunder.
All right, y'all. Well, until we come up with some wacky, catchy outro catchphrase like all the hip YouTubers have, I'm just gonna say we'll catch you later.
Yep. Take care. Later.